Hello everyone, my name is Brayden and this is Airless Quill 9, and in today's video we are going to fill out the D&D UA 2025 Eberron update survey. I haven't really done one of these videos before, but I wanted to show you just me completing the survey because this new Unearthed Arcana came out. I haven't talked about it in a video yet, but I figured I could do both in this video so that you guys can have my full thoughts on this new Eberron update. And boys, there are a lot to talk about. So for the actual survey, the rating system that they currently have is green means go. That means it's either that means we like it, that they can release it as written or with some tweaks. Yellow means that some significant changes need to be made to the feature, and they'll ask us to describe more of what that means. And red just means we don't like the feature as presented at all. So it won't give us a box to fill out to tell them why. It just tells them that we hate it and they need to change it. So we are going to talk about all of these probably. Okay, so have I played an Artificer character in 5th edition before the Unearthed Arcana? Yes, I have, and it was quite fun. Have I playtested this version yet? No. Overall, how do I feel about the Artificer-based class? I like the Artificer as written. I do think there need to be a couple more tweaks, but that's about it. Okay. So Tinker's Magic. Tinker's Magic is entirely new. It replaced the the magical tinkering feature that they previously had, and this did receive a couple changes. First off, it lets us know the mending cantrip, which is great. And the item that you create with this feature now lasts until you finish a long rest. It used to only be an hour in the previous Unearthed Arcana for this, so that's a great change there. So I think this is a great improvement to this feature. The only tweaks I would say would be to add some more options in here, but I don't know if they'll think about doing that, so we're just gonna say green. Because we do think there could be a couple tweaks to it, but not too much. These are all slightly useful options. Okay, so replicate magic item is seeing just a couple changes. I've highlighted the actual places where they've added in some sentences here. So it says, when you choose a plan to learn, you choose it from any magic item plans table for which you qualify. Your qualification is based on your artificer level, which makes sense. And if you replace a plan with a new plan, any magic items created with the replace plan immediately vanishes. That makes sense as well. And then they've added this in here, spellcasting focus. You can use any wand or weapon created by this feature as a spellcasting focus in lieu of using a set of artisan's tools. That's also really nice there. In the actual magic item plans tables, they've added in some new options and changed some. For the level 2 options, they've added in the manifold tool, repeating shot, returning weapon, and wraps of unarmed power +1. At level 6, they've added in Boots of the Winding Path, the Mind Sharpener, the Necklace of Adaption, the Radiant Weapon, Repulsion Shield, Ring of Swimming, Ring of Water Walking, Sentinel Shield, Spell Refueling Ring, Wand of Magic Missiles, Wand of Web, and Weapon of Warning, which I think are all pretty good options to have. At level 10, they've added in Armor of Resistance, Dagger of Venom, Elven Chain, Ring of Feather Falling, Ring of Jumping, Ring of the Mind Shielding, Shield +2, Wand of the War Mage +2, Weapon +2, and Wraps of Unarmed Power +2. This used to say uncommon rings and wondrous items. They've removed the rings part and just added in these additional options here, which is pretty nice. And then at level 14, this used to be just a whole slew of things here, and now they have removed that. They've just kept Wondrous Item, and they've added in Armor +2, Arrow Catching Shield, Flame Tongue, Ring of Reaction, Ring of Protection, and Ring of the Ram. So overall, I think this is a good improvement. It's nice that they have more specific options here, because it was nice that they had opened up the options available for you to choose from, but it greatly imbalanced the game, because you couldn't there were so many options for you to choose that some options were just crazy powerful. And specifically the new Enspelled items, those, I don't think you can choose those any longer because of these changes, which is okay, because you can now the spell storing item basically does something similar. So yeah, overall I think this is much better. You can maybe add some additional items in here, but I think what they've done is pretty great. And then the Manifold tool is actually a new item, which we'll take a look at as well. There's a new subclass included in here called the Cartographer, which is pretty great. Magic item Tinkerer has seen a couple new changes. They've added in this charge magic item and transmute magic item. This lets you expend a spell slot as a bonus action and have one of the items that you created with replicate magic item regain a number of charges equal to the spell slot that you expended. That's pretty nice there. I like that a lot. Drain magic item was entirely unchanged from the last Unearthed Arcana, so that didn't receive any changes. And then transmute magic item is really niche, but very useful. It just allows you to use a magic action to touch one of the magic items that you've created with the replicate magic item feature and transform it into a different magic item that is included in your that you have a plan for. So you can only do it once per long rest, but it's extremely useful if you don't have a specific magic item that you just decide you could really use in this particular scenario. I feel like that's a really great change. So yeah, I feel like this is great here. And then spell storing item did actually receive a couple additional sentences that do make it a lot better of a feature. They still have it be a level 1, 2, or 3 artificer spell, which is really great. They've added in that the spell must not require a material component that is consumed by the spell. That's a good stipulation in there. And then they've also added in here that once a creature has used the object to produce the spell's effect, the object can't be used this way again until the start of the creature's next turn. So that is also a pretty good addition there. This will just ensure that you can't pass the item around and everyone can use it in the same turn. So you won't have an instance where you cast Fireball and then you pass it around your entire group of party and they all cast Fireball in the same round on a single creature. That won't happen anymore. So I feel like this is a good improvement to this feature. It just balances it a lot more for play. And then finally, level 20 Soul of Artifice has seen a couple changes. The first one is to cheat death. You can now disintegrate any number of uncommon or rare magic items that you created with replicate magic item. And when you do so, you instead this should be your hit points instead change to a number of you instead change to a number of hit points equal to 20 times the number of magic items disintegrated. This is pretty good. They just need to fix the wording on that a little bit. And then finally, magical guidance is completely different from the last Unearthed Arcana. This is pretty bad. It just says whenever you use your Flash of Genius and the affected ability check or saving throw still fails, that use of Flash of Genius isn't expended if you have attunement to at least one magic item. I feel like this completely misses the mark. I don't like this at all, so we're gonna give a note here. Because this is pretty bad. I can't think of a scenario where this is not gonna happen very often. And most of the time, if you're using Flash of Genius, you probably have an idea of what the DC already is. So I don't see this coming in use often at all. So we're gonna leave a note here. I'm gonna say cheat death is very or cheat death has a great improvement. The feature just needs to state that that your hit points change to the specified amount number, not drop. And then magical guidance still misses the mark. This version doesn't seem very useful at all. I think you either need to take another go at this feature or use the last version of it and add that the 1d6 applies to ability checks and saving throws. I feel like that would have been a good improvement to the last version. Have you playtested the cartographer subclass? No, but I do have a lot to say about it. So cartographer, I think this is an amazing subclass. So let's talk about each of these features and what I think about them. So level with the tool proficiencies, you gain proficiency with calligrapher's supplies and cartographer's tools. If you already have one of these, you can choose a different proficiency of an artisan tool, which is good. And then in addition, when you scribe a spell scroll using the crafting rules in the player's handbook, the amount of time required to craft it is halved. I feel like that is a very good feature there. Then we have cartographer's spells. This gives us a list of spells that are always prepared for us. At 3rd level, we know Fairy Fire, Guiding Bolt, and Healing Word. At 5th level, we get Locate Object and Mind Spike. 9th level is Clairvoyance and Haste. 13th level is Freedom of Movement and Locate Creature. And then 17th level is Scrying and Teleportation Circle. I feel like these are all good options, so I'm going to give that a green rating as well. My favorites here, of course, are Guiding Bolt. Mind Spike is pretty good just as a psychic damage spell. Haste is really good. Freedom of Movement is pretty useful. There's a lot of good utility spells on here. Scrying, Locate Creature, Clairvoyance, and Locate Object are all pretty great. And then Teleportation Circle is niche, but I've seen it used quite a bit in my campaigns personally, so that's a really good option to have available. So I'm going to give that a green rating as well. Adventurer's Atlas is really cool. So whenever you finish a long rest, you use your cartographer's tools and you create a number of magical maps equal to your intelligence modifier +1. And then you can divvy out these maps between yourself and your party members. And then each target that has one of these maps in their possession gains some benefits from having that. The first one is awareness, which lets them have a 1d4 bonus to their initiative rolls, which is pretty cool. And then positioning, which is really useful. It allows each map holder to know the location of all other map holders on the same plane of existence. And this specifically affects you when you're casting a spell or creating an effect that requires you to be able to see another target. You are considered being able to see that target regardless of sight, as long as they are holding a map, as long as they're within the spell's or effect's range. So positioning is really cool. I think this is an amazing feature, so I'm going to give that a green. Level 3 scouting gadgets. You gain the following benefits. Boost. On your turn, you can spend half your movement to teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 10 feet of yourself. You can't use this benefit if your speed is 0. This is pretty niche, but this is a free teleport on your turn if you need it, and as long as you have the movement speed to expend. So I feel like that's pretty good. It also would prevent you from taking opportunity attacks potentially, which is also pretty great. So I feel like that's really nice. And then finally, radar allows you to cast a fairy fire spell without expending a spell slot. And you can do it a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier per long rest. So that's pretty niche, but fairy fire is a great way of gaining advantage on creatures. So I feel like that's pretty good. So I feel like they could make some tweaks to that, but otherwise I kind of like what they have so far. At level 5, they get a feature called Portal Jump. This is really cool. As a bonus action, they can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space they can see, and they can do this a number of times equal to their intelligence modifier per long rest. In addition, they can also potentially use this ability without expending a use if the destination space is within 5 feet of a creature carrying one of the magical maps created with Adventurer's Atlas. But if they do that, they do destroy the map that creature carries. So this is likely something that they're only going to use if they've run out of uses and they really need to get out of a bad situation. But it is really nice that they have that additional option. So I love this feature. I'm going to give it a green. At level 9, Ingenious Movement is the feature here. It just says when you use your Flash of Genius, you or a willing creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of yourself can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see as part of that same reaction. This is also really good. There's a lot of movement potential in this class, a lot of teleporting options here, which is really cool to see. So I mean, I don't really have any notes on this particular feature. It's pretty good. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's a good feature, so I'm going to give it a green. And then level 15 Superior Atlas. This is a really good gives an improvement to the Adventurer's Atlas feature. So there are 3 benefits to this. The first is called Safe Haven. When a map holder is reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, that creature can destroy its map, and when it does so, the creature is then teleported to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you or another map holder of its choice, and then it immediately becomes stable. I've seen some creators saying that this isn't good, but you really have to consider the benefits to this, because first off, there is not a distance requirement on this feature. So you could be halfway around the world, or you could be the scout that has moved into a you've gone, let's say you're scouting out a dragon's lair or something, and you're the only party member in your party that has gone in here, and you really screw up and you get annihilated by the dragon's breath weapon, and you drop to 0 hit points, which would most certainly mean that your character is dead. But because your party members are outside of the lair, you decide to destroy your map and then teleport outside to one of your party members and immediately become stable instead of dying. I think this is a incredible feature. It's so good, and there's so much potential for this, and it really fits the flavor of the subclass. So I think this is really good, and I'm surprised that some creators don't like this feature. That's crazy to me that they don't see the usefulness of this. The other thing that they get here is Unerring Path. This gives them a free casting, or if you are one of the map holders for your Adventurer's Atlas, you specifically can cast the Find the Path spell without expending a spell slot, without preparing the spell, and without needing spell components. And you can do this once per long rest. There have been changes to Find the Path, so it is a little bit more useful than it was previously, or at least its application is much more broad than it used to be, and it is slightly more useful. This also kind of just makes sense for the scout-like character that kind of knows where to go. So I actually like this feature. It's niche, but I can see you using this at least once per day if you need it. So I don't see any issues here. Unshakable Mind is the last feature here. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to go up there. Unshakable Mind is the last feature here. It just says while you have at least one map created, or while at least one map created with your Adventurer's Atlas still exists, taking damage can't cause you to lose concentration on your Artificer spells. So that's also a really nice feature. Overall, I really like Superior Atlas, and I think its abilities are very useful. I think this is one of the most interesting subclasses that Wizards of the Coast has done in a long time, and it has some very good benefits here. And I also love that it's just a new Artificer subclass. I really hope this goes into publication in the Eberron book. I'd be very sad if it didn't. And I just really like every feature here as presented. So I think some of them, they could maybe tweak some of them a little bit, but overall, I really have no complaints here. Have I playtested the new magic item presented in the Unearthed Arcana article, or the Manifold tool? No, I am not, but let's talk about it. So there haven't been any changes to the Homunculus Servant spell. This is still pretty good, though. I like Homunculus Servant spell. And then none of these magic items received any changes whatsoever, but Manifold tool is a new option, so let's talk about it. It's a wondrous item of common rarity that requires attunement. It takes the form of a wrench, a screwdriver, or some other basic tool, and then as a magic item, you can touch the item and transform it into a type of artisan tools of your choice, and then whichever form the tool takes, you have proficiency with it when you use it. So this is just really nice, because this basically just gives you a tool that you can change whatever you need to the type of artisan tool that you need. So yeah, I think this is pretty good. They also, I didn't mention this before, but from the base class, they removed the third level feature called Right Tool for the Job, which let you use the magical tinkering feature to create a type of artisan tool. And I think the reason they did that was because they added in this magic item, which can do functionally the same thing. And since you're an artificer, you could create it at level 2 once you get replicate magic items. So I feel like this will just be a go-to for artificers to make, and it's very useful. So yeah, I don't really see an issue with this. And then all the other options here are pretty neat as well. So nothing to say there. All right, so let's talk about feats. What do I think about the Dragon Mark feats? The Aberrant Dragon Mark It's quite cool. It gives you a 1d4 bonus to con saves. Number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. I feel like that's pretty good. Aberrant Magic lets you choose a level 1 spell slot from the Sorcerer spell list, and you can cast it once per short or long rest and with spell slots, and uses your Constitution as the spellcasting ability. And then Aberrant Surge says whenever you cast a level 1 spell that you chose from this feature, you can also expend some hit dice and gain those as temporary hit points. If you roll an even number and on an odd number, you deal force damage to creatures within 30 feet of you. So, pretty cool. I like that a lot. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these just because there's so many of them, and it would take a long time for me to do that. Mark Detection is a d4 bonus to Wisdom, Insight, or Perception. You gain Detect Magic and Detect Poison and Disease. And then at level 3, you gain See Invisibility. And then you also gain these additional spells, which you can add to your spell list if you have the Spellcasting or Pack Magic feature. I feel like this is pretty decent. It's pretty. These are all pretty niche as well, so I don't know what I would really change in any of these. Mark of Finding is a d4 bonus to Perception or Survival checks. Finder's Magic gives you Hunter's Mark. And at level 3, it gives you Locate Object. And then Spells of the Mark gives you these spells here. So I think that's also pretty good. Mark of Handling is really cool. It gives you a d4 bonus to Nature and Animal Handling checks. It gives you the Animal Friendship and Speak with Animal spells always prepared. At level 3, you can target monstrosities with the Animal Friendship and or Speak with Animal spells as long as their intelligence score is 3 or lower. That's really cool. And then Spells of the Mark gives you these spells here. I think that is really cool. Mark of Healing, you get a d4 bonus to Herbalism kit checks and medicine checks. For Healing Touch, you get the Cure Wounds spell, and then at level 3, you get Lesser Restoration, and then Spells of the Mark gives you a bunch of healing spells. So I like that as well. Mark of Hospitality. It's a d4 bonus to Persuasion checks and to ability checks using brewer's supplies or cook's utensils, which is pretty good. You gain the Prestidigitation cantrip. You also gain Purify Food and Drink and Unseen Servant. And then Spells of the Mark gives you spells as well. That's what all the Spells of the Mark do. It gives you some additional spells for your spell list. So I think that's good. Mark of Making is a d4 bonus to Arcana checks and ability checks using artisan tools in general, which is pretty great. Spellsmith gives you the Mending cantrip. You can also have the Magic Weapon spell, which is pretty cool. And then Spells of the Mark as well. So I like Mark of Making, especially with the boost to Magic Weapon as well. That makes it pretty good. Mark of Passage, you gain a +5 speed increase, Intuitive Motion, which gives a d4 bonus to Athletics and Acrobatics checks. Magical Passage gives you the Misty Step spell, and then Spells of the Mark. I think that one's pretty good too. Especially the speed increase. Mark of Scribing. D4 bonus to History checks and Calligrapher supplies. You gain the Message cantrip, the Comprehend Languages spell, and then at 3rd level you gain Magic Mouth, and then you gain Spells of the Mark. I think that's alright as well. Mark of Sentinel gives you a d4 bonus to Insight or Perception checks. Guardian Shield allows you to cast the Shield spell, which is pretty great. You also gain Vigilant Guardian, which basically gives you when a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can take a reaction to swap places with that creature, and you are hit by the attack instead. And it's a once per long rest feature, so that's pretty cool. And then you gain Spells of the Mark. So I like that as well. Mark of Shadow, Cunning Intuition. You gain 1d4 bonus to stealth and performance checks. Oh, too far. Shape Shadows gives you the minor illusion cantrip. You also gain the invisibility spell, and then you gain spells mark. So I think that's pretty cool as well. Mark of Storm gives you a d4 bonus to acrobatics checks and navigator's tools. It gives you resistance to lightning damage. This might be too powerful. Storm magic lets you know the thunderclap cantrip and the gust of wind spell at 3rd level, and then you gain these spells here. Probably why you get gust of wind at 3rd level is because you gain that at 1st level. I think Mark of the Storm might be too powerful. And then finally, Mark of Warding gives you a d4 bonus to investigation checks and ability checks using Thieves' Tools. You gain the Alarm and Mage Armor spells. And at 3rd level, you gain Arcane Lock, and then you gain spells to mark. So I think that one is pretty good. I think I'm just going to make a mention that a damage resistance for a level 1 feat is pretty powerful for that particular, for Mark of the Storm. I mean, I understand the idea behind it, but it's a much more potent benefit than all the other options here. Even the +5 increase to speed isn't as crazy as that. Okay, general feats and the epic boon. At the top is Boon of Cyberus, so I guess we'll talk about that first. You increase 1 ability score by 1, and then you gain Aberrant Magic. You can choose any spell from the Sorcerer spell list or a spell from the Cyberus Dragon Marks table. You have that always prepared, and you can cast it once without a spell slot and regain the ability to do so when you finish a short or long rest, and you get to choose the spellcasting ability of Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, and you can also cast it using any spell slots you have. So Boon of Cyberus is really good, and the options here are not bad either. So yeah, I think that's pretty potent here. Okay, now we can move on to general feats. Greater Aberrant Mark gives you a +1 bonus to your Constitution score. The D4 bonus to your con saves becomes a D6 bonus, which is pretty great. And then Mark of Inspiration says whenever you cast a cantrip, you can expend one of your hit point dice and roll it. You gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the number rolled, and then one creature of your choice within 30 feet of you takes force damage equal to the number rolled. You can do that a number of times equal to your con modifier. So I think that's really cool. Greater Market Detection. The D4 becomes a D6. Increase 1 ability score of your choice by 1. And then when you cast See Invisibility, you can modify it so that for the duration of the spell, you have advantage on initiative rolls, and enemies that roll initiative within 30 feet of you can't gain advantage on the roll. You can do that once per long rest. I think that's really cool. Mark of Finding, +1 to an ability score of your choice, D4 to D6, and then when you cast Hunter's Mark, you can modify it so that the target of the spell can't gain the benefits of the invisible condition. That's pretty neat. It's going to be good for rangers in particular. Greater Mark of Handling. Ability score increase to any score. D4 to D6. And then improved handling while mounted immediately after you hit a target within 5 feet of your mount with a melee attack roll. Your mount can take a reaction to move up to its speed, or take the attack action to make 1 attack only. I feel like that's pretty decent as well. Greater mark of healing, ability score increase, improved intuition, d4 to d6. And that's what all the improved intuitions do, by the way, is increase that d4 bonus to a d6. And then improved healing says whenever you cast Cure Wounds and roll dice to determine the number of hit points restored, you can treat any 1 or 2 on a roll as a 3. So I feel like that's pretty cool. Greater mark of hospitality, ability score increase, improved intuition, and inspiring hospitality. Whenever you cast Purify Food and Drink, you can modify the spell so that each creature of your choice within 30 feet of you is magically refreshed. Each affected creature's exhaustion level is reduced by 1, and the creature gains temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence, charisma, or wisdom modifier you choose when you select this feat. Once you modify the spell with this benefit, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. I feel like that's really cool too. Greater mark of making. Increase ability score of your choice, improved intuition, improved making. So when you cast magic weapon, you can modify the spell so that the first time you attack with the weapon on each of your turns, you can transfer some or all of the weapon's bonus to your armor's class. So this kind of works like the defender, I believe, is the weapon that does this. So for example, if you upcasted magic weapons so that you have a +2 bonus from it, you can when you attack, you can reduce it to a +1 bonus to give yourself a +1 bonus to armor class. And you can modify the spell once per long rest in that way. So I feel like that's kind of neat too. Greater mark of passage. Ability score increase, improved intuition, and then when you cast Misty Step, you can modify the spell so you can bring one willing creature that you are touching with you, and then they arrive in a space within 5 feet of you. That's really good. I like that as well. Greater mark of scribing, ability score increase, improved intuition, inspired scribing. You can when you cast comprehend languages, you can modify it to cause a sigil to appear in the air above a creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself, which lasts for the duration of the spell. While the sigil persists, your enemies within 30 feet of the creature must spend 2 feet of movement for every 1 feet they move closer to that creature. The sigil disappears if the creature makes an attack roll, casts a spell, or deals damage. It's a pretty good warding effect. Mark of the Sentinel. It has ability score increase, improved intuition, and then when you cast shield, you can modify the spell so that it magically marks a creature that you can see within 30 feet of you until the end of its next turn. While marked, the target must spend 2 feet of movement for every 1 foot they move away from you. So it kind of does the opposite of the other effect, which is kind of cool. Greater mark of shadow. Ability score increase, improved intuition, improved shadow. When you cast invisibility on yourself, you can modify the spell to also affect 1 willing creature within 5 feet of yourself. The invisible condition immediately ends for an affected creature after it makes an attack roll, deals damage, or casts a spell, and you can do it once per long rest. So I think that's also cool. That's kind of a free upcasting of invisibility. Greater mark of storm. Increase 1 ability score of your choice. Improved intuition, and then improved storm. When you cast gust to wind, you can modify the spell so that you gain a fly speed equal to half your speed for the duration of the spell. See, I feel like this one is the one that could also use some work. Greater mark of warding. Ability score increase, improved intuition, and then improved warding. When you cast mage armor on yourself, you can modify the spell to also affect 1 willing creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. I feel like that's cool too. And then potent dragon mark. You gain an ability score increase to increase the spell casting ability used by your dragon mark feat of level 1 to a maximum of 20. Dragon Mark Preparation, you always have these spells on your Dragon Mark feat spells of the mark list, if any, prepared. So that's a really potent buff. And then Dragon Mark Spellcasting, you have one spell slot to cast spells granted by your Dragon Mark feat. The spell slot's level is 1/2 your level round up to a maximum of level 5. You regain the expended spell slot when you finish a short or long rest. And you can use your spell slot to cast only a spell that you have prepared because of your Dragon Mark feat or the Dragon Mark Preparation benefit of this feat. I feel like that is really good. And it's going to make things like something that seems pretty niche, like the improved making, much more potent, since you can now upcast it with that free spell slot. So that's all the feats there. Now we just need to give our notes about Mark of the Storm. What keeps you from rating Mark of the Storm green? I'm just going to say Storm's Boon is a much more powerful benefit than any of the other Dragon Mark feats get. Because that's really my only warning there. And then Greater Mark of Storm. This would be a good moment to give the, what was it? The Storm Spoon. Oh crap. Can I go back? Well, oh, what did that do? Okay, this would be a good moment to give the Storm's Boon benefit and give the base Dragon Mark feat something more balanced for level 1. There we go. Which country are you from? I'm in the US. All right, and that's gonna be it. So yeah, overall, some pretty interesting options available in this playtest, and I felt like this was the best way to give my thoughts for this particular video, and at least got to give you my notes on everything as well. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate your support. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content from my channel. Until then, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See you later.